You're pathetic, Michael. Everyone can see it. Sarah spits over the roast, laughter ricocheting off the plaster like a thrown plate. And Alan at the end of the table freezes with his fork halfway to his mouth while Emily's face goes slack, and Jacob stares at the sprig of holly as if it might answer for me. My name is Michael Reed. I'm 46, from Cleveland, Ohio, and right there, under the yellow bulb that hums like an interrogation light, I feel my chest thin into a coin slot. The room smells like gravy and cheap cologne. The tree lights wink against the rain-slick windows. Linda, my sister, offers an awkward smile that is all apology and interest at once. They brought my boss, Alan Price, because Sarah likes to win on other people's accolades and because she knows how much I want that corner office, like she knows how to buy the best ham without blinking. Someone else at the table, Jeff from down the street, a neighbor who'd barbecued my old truck's rust off last summer, leans forward and snickers, and a kid pokes his head around the doorway to see why voices shook. The ugly thing is that the shame lands where it should hurt. In front of Alan, in front of my daughter, the person I want to protect from the way her mother smiles with teeth, showing the way the rest of them do when they set a trap. For years I've stitched together overtime and extra jobs. For years I've swallowed the cough and the hospital bills, and the empty fridge in winter to make Christmas the one thing I could give that felt like proof I wasn't a failure. But tonight Sarah throws a napkin on all of that and calls it cheap in front of the one man whose signature on a promotion would have changed everything. The thermos. The dented green thermos with the faded sticker that says, "Engineer's brew my father left me," sits by my plate like a silent witness. That thermos I bring to every long shift, the thermos they always make fun of when I reach for it at the sink. And I see Emily glance at it with a small, insolent curl of her mouth, and I understand that the thermos is now more than a coffee carrier. It is the shape of everything I refuse to discard. "You always go cheap," Sarah repeats, and someone laughs like a guillotine blade, and in the motion of sound my vision narrows to Alan's face, and I measure the distance between his eyes and mine and calculate every small mundane humiliation that led to this tilt of the head and to the corroded trust that tastes like tin. I watch the plates tremble as if the table itself is afraid of what I might do. My hands are folded, knuckles white, because for the moment I am holding all the restraint I can afford. There is a heat in my ears that's not from the stove. It's the slow burn of being seen through their contempt. "You let him save and he's proud of a thermos?" Jeff jokes, loud enough to make my cheeks burn, and someone claps, polite meanness, while Alan studies Sarah and then studies me, searching the room for context, for reason to remain. I want to roar, to slam the table and say, "I worked 2 jobs last year so Emily could have braces and so Jacob could go to summer camp. I took the overtime shifts and missed the dentist, and I took your mother to the doctor and paid the deductible you cried about when you thought I wasn't listening." But the words are slow, like old pennies sliding over a counter, and my mouth tastes like metal. I swallow and the thermos catches my eye like an accusation. My father carried that thermos across a lot of midnight shifts, and he used to say, "You learn what matters by what you're willing to carry." And that sentence, brittle and exact, arrives now like a small inheritance. At some point I'm aware of the silver ornament on the mantel, a little hand-painted Santa I'd bought at a craft fair, the one with the chipped glaze and a scarf painted too bright. And I remember buying it years ago because Emily loved the red and the ridiculous hat, and because I thought if I could buy a small, perfect thing for her that she would keep, then some of the long hours would mean more than they cost. That Santa sits there, inconspicuous, not meant for display tonight, but it is there, and when Sarah tosses the word cheap toward me, like a coin tossed back into my lap, my mind catches on that Santa and on the ritual of how every year I go out of my way to knit their lives together with presents I can't really afford. And for the first time a cold, precise thought truncates the usual gratitude circuit. They can mock me once my back is turned, but not twice. Promises are like unpaid bills, I think. A line moving through me as if I've always known it but never let it breathe. They collect interest until somebody pays in full or it takes your house. That sentence feels like an iron fitting into place. It's the first quotable thing that rides up from the bone, and it hits like proof. I stand up because my knees remember the years of late nights, standing at loading docks, and because the humiliation tastes like an ember, and because Alan's empty hand seems to ask me to do something before he defines me by the way my family treats me. I move toward the study where the gift boxes hide beneath tissue like trapped birds, and my fingers find the tape, the receipts folded inside, the little promises I made to myself that this year I'd do better, and as I lift each box I feel a muscle in my face tighten into a smile carved from necessity. The living room light washes Sarah's profile in gold, and I see the arrogance there, the way she arranges people like decorations, and I fold the paper back over the boxes, and with a quietness that will be noisier later, I undo what I've done. I put each gift in the car with my jacket and the thermos and the sauna ornament balanced beside them, and close the trunk with the care of a man moving his last belongings out of a burning room. Nobody notices the small empty spot where each gift used to sit. They're enthralled in their victory, trading slights like currency, and I drive until the road opens into the cold and the radio plays nothing but static. The wind makes the thermos sing in my bag, and the Santa bumps my knee. Two sacrament objects stitched into a memory I'm about to unthread, because at this table there are no saints and no altar, only a cross of expectation and the body of my labor on it. I don't throw the gifts away. I return them. Each expensive thing goes back to the stores with the same receipts I folded into my wallet for proof that I had tried to be enough, and I am meticulous about it because the act of returning is an act of accounting. I want the world to know that I was not the one who failed. I failed only if I consented to be diminished silently. Returning the gifts feels like pressing a reset button on my life. And yet, as I hand over boxes to uncomprehending clerks and watch credit rise back to my account in small, antiseptic numbers, something else begins to slide into place. The humiliation will not be the end of the story. In the back of the receipt pile is the thermos imprint on my palm, and the Santa ornament rattles softly, and I make a plan that is small and stubborn. If they will call me cheap, let them have cheap. If they will call me a failure, let their definition stand in the hollow where gratitude should be, and I will measure myself differently. The plan is not yet revenge. It's an evacuation. I pack a bag, leave a note that says nothing, get in my truck, and drive until Cleveland's skyline is only an idea in the rearview mirror. The night is thin and hard. The interstate an artery of neon and rest stops where men in boots smoke and talk about nothing important. I sleep in motels with coffee machines that drip weak coffee into paper cups, and I learn again how the thermos keeps my coffee warm when the room's air conditioning is bruised. I send messages to nobody, and I keep receipts in my wallet like talismans. When I fly out a week later, a ticket bought with the back payment the returns produced, I don't tell them. I don't want their mercy. The first quote that breaks out of me in the taxi to the airport is small and bitter and true. Walking away is a currency you can't spend unless you keep your pockets honest. It is the second little philosophy to lodge itself in my mouth, and I taste the grit of it like iron. I land in places I haven't seen and fill postcards with nothing but weather, and mailed them to an old friend, Carla, who'd once told me, "If you ever need a damn brave friend, call me," and she answers with a flight seat and a grin. I roam cities that speak other languages at night, and for a time the distance is like a balm. I eat street food in a foreign market while thinking of the way my daughter laughed 2 summers ago, when I finally fixed the broken swing in the yard, and that laughter is a tether that keeps me from dissolving into the pleasure of running. In the small hours of a Lisbon winter, watching trams squeal uphill, I make phone calls I should have made sooner. A referral to an accountant in town, a lawyer who deals with joint assets, a quiet detective friend who owes me a favor. None of this is impulsive now. It's the slow machinery of someone who learned too early that work can be a religion and the altar can be your family, and who now wants to reclaim the worship by more honest means. I hire a local accountant, to help me reconcile the books of the contracting company I started so I could finally stop renting and give my family something real. My hands are steady as I sign the forms remotely because the last thing I'll let myself be again is the man who doesn't look at numbers. The accountant finds oddities, transfers to accounts I don't recognize, invoices that don't match jobs, deposits that look patched together to hide something between Sarah and a set of credit lines. The finding pulls like a hook in me, and when I call Carla, it feels like lighting a fuse. "Bring proof, not vengeance," she says. And I remember that method is the only mercy available to a man who wants justice. She becomes the other engine of my plan. She files FOIs for me from half a world away. She waits on hold with an attorney at midnight. She makes small legal inquiries that look like curiosity until they start to pile into an undeniable pattern. The third quotable line rises when I see the bank statements for the first time. Secrets are like fat in meat. You can't burn them off without losing the cut. And I think this line to myself as if a truth is now finally speaking. I am not clever. I am patient, and patience feels like a weapon I can afford. The months unspool with the rhythm of receipts. I watch as the transfers lead to a nest of cards and withdrawals made to a woman named Chelsea with addresses I don't know. Little luxuries purchased at the stores Sarah swore she'd never enter. Vacations I would have given my left knee for, but which I never saw because I was patching the roof instead. Every transaction reads like a lie told in numbers. The decision solidifies like a frost line. When the law moves, it will be slow but lethal. When the family feels the absence of me in the places I used to hold, it will be more total than any tantrum. I keep traveling and keep collecting. I send small gifts to the children's schools from their father with no return address. A backpack for Emily, a football for Jacob, and I watch their faces through the files, seeing the same hunger that made me give in the first place. The thermos and the Santa ornament travel with me, tucked into my duffel like relics. Sometimes I set the thermos on a cafe table and watch strangers pick at their pastries and feel the urge to tell them everything, because my life has become the private ledger of a man who chose to show himself, not to hide. I don't call home for months. I don't reply to messages. I want the silence to be a mirror. By the time I have what I need, the snow has not yet fallen back in Cleveland, but the air tastes like it might. I plan my return not as an angry man, but as a man who will deliver consequences with the same legality he once used to avoid them. Carla files a complaint anonymously with local authorities about the misappropriation. The detective turns up evidence I couldn't have collected without his badge and hers, and the pattern is undeniable. Sarah's signatures where they don't belong, invoices created for jobs never executed, checks paid to companies that don't exist. The law moves the way winter moves, inexorable and clean. I fly home on a gray morning and watch the shoreline of Lake Erie grow like a map of my old life. The Santa ornament rests on the seat beside me like an epitaph, and the thermos grows warmer in my hand as if to remind me where I began. The fourth metaphor comes before the confrontation, brazen and honest. Justice sometimes arrives like a winter storm, quiet at first and then it levels everything in its path, I think. And I feel it settle in my chest with the measured patience of a man who has given up on miracles and now trusts in paperwork. The arrest happens at a Christmas party no one expects. A prosecutor, precise and cold, reads charges in a living room where strangers stand with wine glasses and someone has plugged in the menorah for effect. Alan watches with the same expression he had the night Sarah called me cheap, and Emily's face drains color like a painting left in rain. When the officers take Sarah's hands, there is a sound like a string snapping in the hall, and Linda's eyes go to me as if to ask, "Was this the only way?" I don't answer them because the law has made words unnecessary. The receipts do the speaking now. There is a moment of silence before uproar, of people rearranging themselves to face a truth they'd been too polite to see. The family portrait slides when a frame is taken off the wall, and I'm aware of Santa on the mantle as if he is a small god observing my slow unmaking and remaking. I step forward and pick him up and place him on the dining table where Sarah once stood and where the roast has cooled, and I put the thermos next to him like a pair of relics. I speak only once. I bought those gifts because I thought they'd keep us whole, I say, my voice even and dry, and the room tilts with the weight of my honesty. But you used what I gave to build another life while calling me cheap, I add, and the words land with the clean smack of evidence. The fifth and last quotable philosophy for this section is gentler, and it slides out of me as if from a place I didn't know I had. You can spend yourself into their good graces, but grace is not a currency. It must be earned freely, and the sentence hangs while Sarah looks like a woman stripped of stage makeup. The law takes its course, and the family shatters not with drama but with the quieter consequence of paper and subpoena. Their holidays collapse into phone calls with lawyers and the sudden stubborn rearrangement of money. The tree that next year stands in the corner of our house is undecorated because the gifts I once labored for are gone, returned the year I left. The house smells hollow like a room that's been unlocked and cleaned while its occupants argue about who forgot which bank password. They sit around an empty tree, brittle and divided, while the world that used to be my audience attends to the logistics of a life that has been mismanaged. I am not there for the spectacle. I am elsewhere, in a hostel in a city with trams, walking along a river that throws back the lamplight in strips, sipping coffee from the thermos and feeling my hands remember what it means to be my own. My revenge was not to break them in their home with a hammer, but to use the slow legal hinge to let the truth fall through their rooms and into the hands of strangers who judge without mercy. They are punished by the law and by quiet. Sarah loses what she held dear in public and privately, and the people who laughed feel the weight of seeing their laughter reflected back. I don't revel. I feel the cost. I feel the ache of the children, their confusion, their anger, and I know the damage is messy and will haunt our name. I do not deny the wound. I only insist that it is not my shame to carry forever. The final scene comes on a wet December when I decide to return not to reclaim a life but to watch how something I started resolves. I don't come back to take them in or to beg, and I don't come back for applause. I drive up the boulevard knowing the route by memory and park 2 blocks away, and I send a single text to Emily that says, "There's a package on your porch." I watch from the shadow of a maple as she opens the door and sees a single box. Inside is the Santa ornament I bought years ago, the one with the chipped glaze and the scarf painted too bright. And underneath it a bundle of papers, the receipts from the years I returned gifts, the audit, the documents that put names to numbers. I am not there when she reads. I watch through the window as she sits on the stoop and cradles the ornament like a thing that's both punished and beloved. The thermos sits on the porch step next to the box like a marker. It is dented and has a new sticker that reads, "Keep what keeps you warm." And when she lifts it, she sees the small note tucked beneath the lid. You can live on borrowed warmth, or you can learn to brew your own. The last philosophy slips out of me quietly at that moment, the catharsis line that the story allows me to render plainly. You can't be the bank for people who rob you of yourself. And the second, final plain life lesson lands like an exhale. Do not spend your life proving your worth to people who profit from the evidence of your toil. I turn away then, a man scarred but not broken, leaving the porch light on like an apology I don't owe, and stepping into a night where the thermos keeps my coffee warm and the world finally feels like a place where the price of my labor buys me my own bed, not someone else's comfort at my expense. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps us share more true stories like this.